Hello everyone, welcome back. I hope your day is starting off just fantastic. The pic behind me was posted on the I Choose Canada site by Guillermo, and it's a picture that he snapped at Dehalier Provincial Park in Whitby, Ontario. Beautiful scene of Canadian winter coming. Now, in this video, we're going to talk about this guy. And I don't like to talk about him that much on this channel. I would much rather do a video about something positive with respect to Canada. But I have to talk about him today because it's the first time that he's spoken since the budget's been released. Well, not the first time he's spoken, but the first time that he's answered questions from the media. And let me give you the background here, and then I'm going to play some clips of what he said. And I'm interested in your comments in the comment section of, should the Conservatives stick with this guy, or just your comments in general? So the background is that the Liberal government tabled a budget. And usually when a budget is tabled, the discussion in the media and in the House of Commons is a debate over the budget. And I'm sure that the Conservatives wanted to debate the budget and ask questions about the budget and talk about the budget like we should be talking about the budget. But as the budget was released, a few things happened. A member of the Conservative Party, Chris D'Entremont, crossed the floor to join the Liberals. And the following day, another Conservative MP announced that he was going to resign. And so obviously, since floor crossings and resignations don't happen every day, floor crossings in particular are quite rare, so obviously reporters are going to ask questions about this. And reporters' interest in this story maybe was amplified a little bit from the Conservatives' initial reaction to the floor crossing of Chris D'Entremont. Let me post two responses from two different parties with respect to a floor crosser. When Justin Trudeau was the leader of the Liberals and the Prime Minister, he had an MP that crossed the floor to join the Conservatives, and he issued a statement. Recently, Chris D'Entremont, a Conservative, crossed the floor to join the Liberals, and the Conservative Party issued a statement. Let me read you those two statements. Statement from Justin Trudeau when one of his MPs crossed the floor. I wish her the best in her new choices. You know, that's something that happens from time to time in politics. It's not great, but it's also not the end-all be-all. Contrast that statement from the official statement issued by the Conservative Party of Canada. Chris D'Entremont, who established himself as a liar after willfully deceiving his voters, friends, and colleagues because he was upset he didn't get a coveted deputy speaker role, and then they put a period there even though the sentence really grammatically isn't over. They go on to say, he is now spinning more lies after crossing the floor. He will fit in perfectly in the Liberal caucus. A very diplomatic statement from a party who wishes to form government in our country. And this is the exact same strategy that you would expect from Donald Trump and the Republicans. Deny, deflect, and escalate. Call everyone who disagrees with you a liar, even if they were your friend just a couple of days ago, and then paint them as the enemy. But that wasn't the end of it. While Pierre Poilievre took a low profile for a few days after that, Andrew Scheer stood up and had a press conference and painted the picture like this. He accused the Liberals of using undemocratic tactics to cause confusion and take over the narrative so that we wouldn't discuss the budget. The news wasn't, in his mind, that two sitting Conservative members defected from his party just days before a vote on the budget is expected to happen. Interesting take. But now finally Pierre Poilievre has made an appearance. He's holding his first event where he's answering questions from reporters. So he obviously knows he's going to get asked about this. And he's asked specifically about some comments that Chris D'Entremont, the MP that crossed the floor to join the Liberals, some comments that he made. And I'll play those comments that he made before we listen to the Poilievre clip. Here are Chris D'Entremont's comments.
Quite honestly, a lot of times I felt it was a part of a frat house rather than a serious political party. It wasn't about keeping government to account. It wasn't about trying to do the best for your constituents. It was about tearing down.
So those were his comments. That's the guy that crossed the floor and joined the Liberals. It didn't feel so much like a political party, but more like a frat house. He made those comments. So a reporter asked Pierre Poilievre to comment on those comments. I'm going to play that clip for you. And while you listen, try and in your mind imagine how Donald Trump would answer this type of question. What tactics would Donald Trump use?
Aaron Collins, CBC. So Chris D'Entremont, just turning back to last week, said that your party is being run like a frat house. So I'm just curious what you think he means by that, and if you think.
Well, I think that CBC had to be. Are you with CBC, by the way?
Yeah, that's what.
Oh, okay, great.
I'm just curious if you think that could lead to more MPs leaving your caucus and what you think he means by that.
Well, first of all, CBC has had to correct the falsehoods that they put into that story. So I encourage you to tell Canadians about the falsehoods you published and explain why you did that. But I would ask if you agree with Mr. d'Entremont, or do you believe he was telling the truth when he said, and I'm going to quote, "Now, after 6 months under a new Prime Minister who promised financial discipline, Canadians are still waiting." He said that he would be judged by the cost at the grocery store. Well, Canadians are judging him, and they are not impressed. Since the Liberals came to power, food prices have risen 40%. We have heard it many times here today. It is deliberate, and it is unacceptable. It is inhumane for a G7 country. Mr. d'Entremont said that Liberal food price inflation is inhumane. Do you believe that he was telling the truth when he said that? Yes. Oh, you can.
I want to ask you questions.
I did already. I already said that your report from CBC was wrong, and we have corrected the record. We put out a statement. We stand by the statement. But I have a statement here from Mr. d'Entremont. He says, since the Liberals came to power, food prices have risen 40%. We have heard it many times here today. It is deliberate, and it is unacceptable. It is inhumane in a G7 country. Do you agree with Mr. d'Entremont that Mark Carney's food price inflation is inhumane?
So again, I asked you if you thought that if what you thought Mr. d'Entremont meant by your party being run like a frat.
Well,
whether or not you thought that would lead to more MPs leaving your caucus. That's my question for you, sir.
No. So I answered your question.
You did not.
And so the answer that I have back to you is that Mr. d'Entremont this is a quote from just a few months ago, where he said that Liberal food price inflation was inhumane. And you know what? He's right. Thank you.
Okay, I played the full clip for you there without editing. Okay, just the full exchange. Obviously, Pierre Poilievre would anticipate that he could get asked about this. It's been days now for him to prepare, and these are the first questions he's faced from reporters. And that was the exchange. Now, remember, I asked you to keep in the back of your mind, how would Donald Trump handle this question? Well, he would just call it fake news. Whatever reporter would ask him a difficult question or an embarrassing question, he would just single out that reporter and say, well, you're fake news and you're not going to be allowed to ask me any more questions in the future. And it's the exact same tactic that Pierre Poilievre uses. So who are you with? CBC? Oh. Well, you should correct yourself because we've proved that your story is wrong. We've issued a statement. We've clarified by issuing a statement. Remember, this is the official statement from the Conservative Party. It has nothing to do with whether Chris d'Entremont said he felt the party was being run more like a frat house than a political party. It accuses him of being a liar, of willfully deceiving voters, friends, and colleagues because he was upset that he didn't get a deputy speaker role. And now, after spinning more lies after crossing the floor, he will fit in perfectly with the Liberal caucus. That's their official statement. And then he goes on, how would I describe it? I guess like a pompous ass, trying to flip the roles and trying to pin the reporter down on a question. Do you agree with Chris d'Entremont's assessment that Mark Carney's Liberal food inflation is inhumane? And you'll notice that he was reading that statement. He had that quote from Chris d'Entremont. He was prepared. Remember, this guy's been out of the spotlight for 3-4 days while this drama unfolded. He's meeting reporters for the first time, and he comes armed with that quote from one of his former colleagues that crossed the floor. He brings that quote, which he's prepared to read, to any reporter that asks him a question about the topic. That was his plan, to respond in that way, in a condescending, disrespectful, asinine way. Kind of the same way Donald Trump would answer a similar question. This guy is basically Donald Trump's mini-me. It's the same playbook. It's the Maple MAGA playbook. He just will double down no matter what. So now the strategy is to call this guy who's left his party. Well, he wasn't really a conservative. He was a liar. He was terrible. He wasn't fit to be on our team anyway. He'll fit in with the Liberals in exactly the same way that Donald Trump would throw any former Republican under the bus if they criticize him. Oh, he's just a rhino. He's not really a MAGA Republican. He's a wannabe Democrat. The same playbook. They're exactly the same, except for the haircut and the little smirk on Poilievre's face while he speaks. These two guys are from the same mold, and he's doubled down with this strategy. I'm trying to understand whether that's just the way he is, that's his character, or whether it's a political strategy, knowing that he's going to face a leadership review, and knowing that at least 50% of his party is from the kind of right side of the spectrum when you look at conservatives, from the Reform Party side of the spectrum, which are very well represented in leadership votes. They're members of the party and they will vote on the leadership. In order to win the leadership, he doesn't have to win over the minds of the general public in Canada. He has to win over the people that are going to vote in that leadership review. And that's what they expect out of him. The far right-leaning part of the Conservative Party, they expect this disrespectful, over-the-top rhetoric. That's what they expect, and that's what he's playing into. I'm not sure which it is. I'm interested in your feedback in the comments. What's the answer? Is he playing a political game so that he ensures that he wins his leadership race? Or is he just an asshole? And do you think a person with this type of character, with these types of communication skills, do you think we would want someone like him as a prime minister, someone representing our nation? It boggles my mind that he's going down this path. I'm leaning towards believing that he's just an asshole. I'm interested in your comments in the comment section, but I'm going to end off this video with a statement, because I know there's going to be some people that say, well, why are you always so hard on Pierre Poilievre? You don't speak the same way about Mark Carney. Why are you so negative when you talk about Pierre Poilievre? And I'll make this commitment to you. The first time that Mark Carney stands up in front of reporters and spouts doom and gloom and rhetoric and answers disrespectfully in a condescending asshole type way, I'll call him out on it. But he hasn't done that yet. Every time I hear Mark Carney speak, I hear an educated man who's talking about Canada and what his vision of Canada's future is and his plan. And he speaks with patriotism and pride about our country. In fact, when Mark Carney speaks about Pierre Poilievre, he speaks with respect. And the only reason that Pierre Poilievre has a seat in the House of Commons now is because Mark Carney called a by-election quickly to allow him to get reelected and sit in the House and be able to continue to be leader and stand in front of reporters like this and make an absolute ass out of himself. So maybe Mark Carney is a lot smarter than we think, because my perspective at the time was maybe Mark Carney should consider not calling a by-election, delaying the by-election to keep Pierre Poilievre out of the House of Commons, to not allow him to run in a by-election so that we wouldn't have to hear from him for months and months. In fact, he could have delayed the by-election even up till now. We could have still been at the point where Poilievre was not in the House of Commons. But I think he's smarter than me. He realized that by calling the by-election quickly and getting this guy back in the House immediately, he would just hang himself with his own arrogance. This guy, Pierre Poilievre, in my opinion, is the ball and chain that's dragging the Conservative Party down. He is the Conservatives' little ball of hate. And if they stick with him, I will be shocked if Canadians rally around this guy, if this guy has any chance of resonating with the majority of Canadians. I'm interested in your comments in the comment section. Let me know what you think. I'll read them today. Thanks for watching my video. Subscribe to the channel if you're enjoying the content. If you want to support my work, consider becoming a channel member by clicking the join button below. Have a fantastic rest of your day, everyone, and I'll catch you all on the next one.